Hey everyone, welcome back to Pretending with Dice. As always, I'm your host and game master, AJ. Today's episode is the finale of our Fire of the Gods storyline as part of our ongoing Star Trek Adventures series, Frontier. It's already a little longer than some of our other episodes, so I won't draw out this intro for too long. But yeah, really all I wanted to talk about up top here is to give you guys another reminder of what I mentioned in our last episode, that we're rapidly approaching the 5th anniversary of the podcast on May 24th. We're going to be doing a celebratory Q&A bonus episode for you all. And as such, we want your questions. We've already had some great ones submitted over on our Discord server, but if you've got a burning question of your own that you want to ask us, you can send them to us in basically any form. We're talking messages, tweets, emails, carrier pigeon, you name it. The main thing to know, though, is that to ensure your questions are answered, you will need to get them to us by midnight UK time on the night of Sunday, May 22nd. That's midnight UK time on the night of Sunday, May 22nd. Okay, well, as I said, I don't want to keep you waiting any longer for today's episode, so let's get into it. The finale of the Fire of the Gods storyline. Enjoy. The iridescent light show of the transporter beam briefly fills your vision, your view of the Tenzing's transporter room resolving quickly into your new surroundings in a shimmering blue cascade of light. The five of you, Murphy, Ireela, Connaught, and the two Dratirans, Rane and Varai, find yourselves in a deserted, shady alleyway. The walls of the alleyway rise a couple of stories above you, composed of what looks like a sort of reddish-brown stone of some sort. The ground is unpaved and dusty, but there are some creeping plant growths along the bottoms of the walls which don't look entirely untended, although they are a bit wild. Looking around and up, you can't see any windows looking down into the alleyway, thankfully, so your beam-in may have gone unnoticed. As you get your bearings, the first thing that strikes you is just how quiet it seems to be. It is daytime, and according to your Dratiran guide's instructions prior to beaming, this alleyway should open out onto a marketplace, but you don't hear any sounds of crowds or anyone moving around.
Jonny immediately presses against the wall and goes to the nearest corner to poke his head around and get a look to see if there's anybody around.
Sure, okay. You edge your way up to one end of the alleyway and sort of surreptitiously take a look out. What faces you is quite clearly the expected market square. It's a couple of hundred feet across, and you can see that the opposite side opens onto a thoroughfare of some sort. There are a few permanent stalls arrayed around the square itself, and some ones that look a little bit more temporary, although they are all deserted at the moment, as is the whole square itself. There's a fair amount of things in the square, goods and whatnot, and just kind of general clutter that comes with a presumably usually busy town, just no people. There's definitely an odd kind of abandoned in a hurry atmosphere to the square. That's not to say that there's absolutely no signs of life, however, as you're sort of scanning around, you do spot in the distance a few figures moving hurriedly along the side of the distant thoroughfare on foot, and yeah, they definitely seem to be in a rush to get somewhere.
What time of day is it, sorry?
I'd say it's kind of mid-afternoon.
Okay. Jonny turns back to the group and kind of gives a look that's middling. He doesn't really, sort of frowns a little bit, like, and wanders back. Is there another end to the alley?
Yeah, there is. Yeah. You making a similar check?
Did anybody else take point on that at the same time, or...?
I'll go to the... Murphy would go to the other one.
Okay, so Murphy, you head to the opposite end. This end of the alleyway opens onto a pavement sidewalk on the side of a wide tarmac thoroughfare. It definitely sort of looks like quite a major route through the settlement. A short distance along it, on the other side of the thoroughfare, is dominating the area a very large domed building, much taller than any of the others you can see from where you are in the settlement, and of much more ornate construction, although still clearly made of the same type of kind of reddish stonework. Carvings, arches, and sort of numerous decorations adorn the walls, although you haven't really got the cultural context to determine what they depict. It's a pretty safe guess that this is the Temple of Selden. Looking out from the alleyway, you also get a first proper look at the surrounding backdrop. The settlement does appear to be nestled pretty close to a pair of tall, imposing mountains, the nearest of which visibly bears the signs of old, long-cooled lava flows. These seem to be a pair of dormant volcanoes.
Oh, lovely. Volcanoes. That's not ominous at all.
This was expected though, because I mean, from the story that the original town here was had been buried in a volcanic eruption of some sort, kind of Pompeii style. So this isn't really a surprise to you that the volcanoes. They're not smoking or anything. This isn't like you haven't beamed down and there's like a lava flow coming up the road towards you or anything like that. It's just, it's just quite a striking backdrop, let's just say.
Do I see any other Tertians going around, or...?
You do see one or two seem to be hurriedly making their way up the steps of this large building towards the doors. Again, they seem to be in quite a hurry.
Okay. I'm going to wander back to Ronnie and Vari. Is it normally this quiet, or is this unusual?
One of them would join you at the mouth of the alleyway to look around with you, and seems troubled.
No. At this time of day, there should be people everywhere. If something is wrong, though, they may have sought sanctuary within the temple.
Why would they call everybody in for sanctuary?
I do not know. At times of danger, however, the temple is the safest place. That is where people would shelter.
Mark, it's completely cleared out at the other end of this alley. So it does look like people might be, I don't know, taking shelter from something. Are there any natural disasters, or are there any earthquakes, or anything that happens naturally around this area?
We do have earthquakes occasionally, yes, and we know that the volcanoes were once very active, but there has not been any activity for some time.
Murphy's going to turn to the doctor. Do you sense anything?
Is there anybody close enough that I can try and sense them?
You can't really. I mean, there's nobody really close enough that you can see, like, to get a focused one on. But can I get just a? I guess this would be insight. So yeah, can I just get an insight check for you? 12 and an 11. Okay. Well, we'll call that one success. I didn't say the difficulty, but let's call it difficulty 1. So you can't get a kind of focused feeling on anybody, but you are sort of just kind of creeping at the edges of your senses. Is a sort of general kind of fearfulness. You can't really get an idea of what it's directed against, but just there's a sort of all around you kind of from the town in general, there's a kind of atmosphere of fear, I would say.
It feels there's an unease, fear, but I can't tell of what. If everyone is sheltering, then that probably gives us two options. We can stay out here and we'd be able to go through anything we want out here, but it's dangerous and we need to get down to the excavations anyway. So we may be able to discover what's going on if we go to the sanctuary.
I believe the doctor's right. I do think that this call for sanctuary might have something to do with our friend's flight, as it were. But we can't really sit around out here not knowing, and we have a mission to do. So let's proceed with a great caution. Keep an eye out. Try not to interact with anyone too closely and stick together.
Perhaps we should quickly call back in with the ship to find out if there's any readings in the local area that they could identify to let us know if there's perhaps an earthquake, or perhaps these volcanoes could. I don't know. I don't want to jinx us. Perhaps the volcanoes could be about to go off.
There was a lot of air traffic. If we get closer to the sanctuary, I might be able to pick up more.
Murphy's going to tap her comm badge. Murphy to Ray.
Ray here.
Can you run a scan for geological instabilities, please? The Beeman site is mostly deserted, and we think that the Deuterians are sheltering in their temple. We need to know why.
Sure, I'll do a scan now. See what I find.
Okay.
And now I want to scan.
So, alright, this is going to be, I think, this for you, Ray, is going to be, well, it'd be reason science, so you're looking for 17 or under, and somebody else can roll for the Tenzing, this would be using the sensors science score, looking for 16 or under. This would be difficulty 1, I think, because you're using, the Tenzing is a scientific vessel, being able to scan stuff from orbit. It's kind of its deal.
It's its bag.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll roll mine now. 12 and 6.
12 and 6. Okay, so this is a 3 success roll. So you guys gain 2 momentum. I don't have a note of the momentum yet, again, because it was 4 weeks ago and I've replaced a piece of paper. Yeah!
I do! It's 5.
Okay, so you now have 7. I think we'd previously established the limit was 6, but I might be wrong on that. Okay, so... yeah, right. It's with using the ship's full sensor suite and that, and with the specific goal of looking for seismic instability, was it?
Right.
You pretty much find that the area is in general, still volcanically active. That there are volcanoes in the area, but there's not, as far as you can tell, as far as the ship sensors can tell, any kind of seismic events or imminent volcanism going on. At this time, especially not in the area, the immediate area around the town, you can't find any signs really. No signs of aftershocks or anything that would indicate that there even was a recent earthquake within the last couple of days or anything like that. So there's no, as far as you can tell, this isn't seismologically related, I should say.
Okay.
Scans are showing nothing geological or seismological in effect at the moment. There is some low-lying volcanic activity, but nothing that's in danger of causing any disaster or disturbance on the surface.
Oh, that's reassuring then. Keep an eye on it, just in case, and contact us if there's any changes.
Aye.
Murphy out. Well, at least there's no geological issues creeping up on us. Hopefully. That doesn't explain why everyone is inside.
Fear of an attack would explain it, potentially. And I look at our 2 guides. You said before that there was potential for reprisals against your group. Would that take the form of military action?
They share an uneasy look with one another.
If the high priests had determined that our congregation had transgressed in a serious enough way, then yes, they have seen fit to set such an example in the past, although rarely.
Alright.
In such cases, they will show no mercy to those who they consider guilty.
Are there any signs of anything around us? A newspaper blowing on the wind? It's kind of desolate. If Jonny looks back towards that marketplace...
Just like a convenient front page of a newspaper flows into Jonny, and you look down at it and it says, "Attack imminent. Villagers run for cover."
Apocalypse now.
Yeah, something along those lines.
Not really, no. You can see there are... this isn't like a fully primitive sort of society. They're just couple hundred years behind Federation in terms of technology and stuff. So there are kind of like signs and things up on buildings and stuff, but nothing really kind of stands out as like a sort of like, warning, run for cover. There's no like sirens.
Nobody's left the radio on or anything like that in the rush to get out.
Make an insight. You know what? That's a good question. Make a. I really ought to have you just be rolling for this stuff, shouldn't I? Make an insight security check. See what you can see. Difficulty. Let's say difficulty 2. Although you kind of know what you're looking for. Yeah, I'll go with difficulty 2.
Okay.
15 and a 10. So you got 1 success, and you were aiming for 11 or under. So it's not a full success, but yeah, you kind of mentioned radios. There actually is like a couple of sort of dropped electronic kind of things here and there scattered as you kind of look. If you're looking out in kind of the marketplace area. I mean, you're not personally familiar with the technology, so kind of being able to distinguish what is what is a little bit beyond you at this point. Because you haven't really sort of interacted with any sort of true Jotiran technology. You've kind of, the only bit you've seen is their starship, which is pretty much built to specifications of Earth's. There's some dropped technology, and there's a couple of screens you notice in the distance. One of them, which could be public information ones, which both seem to be just sort of displaying static.
Okay. Is there anything within arm's reach from this alleyway that I could just quickly snatch up and take back to the group?
Not really arm's reach. You could run out and grab something though. There's not really anybody about.
Yeah, I'll do that then. I'll grab the nearest pad, device, smartphone, whatever it is that they've got at this point.
It's the iPhone 10.
The 10? Bloody hell, they really are not advanced at all.
Yeah, I pass it back to the group then, and say the screens over there in the market are all showing static. Is there anything that you can get out of this device to let us know what's happening here?
Vari takes it from you, messes with the controls a little bit, and again it does seem to light up and have a small screen on it, which again seems to be mostly displaying sort of static. Your faces are mostly covered, but you can see them sort of frowning and messing with it a little bit, and eventually gets like a very distorted picture through, and you can just about sort of hear a kind of chanting voice coming through.
This frequency is the closest which we have to a local information broadcast. It seems that the priests are performing a prayer for deliverance.
That's foreboding. Jonny looks to the rest of the group, being the least experienced. He certainly feels that it's foreboding.
Would I be able to get any sort of read off of the... Can we see the priest on the screen?
I mean, it's kind of cutting in and out a little bit. I mean, you occasionally can see sort of like the outline of a figure there, but this is like, it's almost like it's being... There's interference kind of blocking this from getting out, really.
Okay. So I was going to try and see if I could get any sort of read off of them, like via the screen, but...
It's a bit tricky. I mean,
yeah.
You're kind of... I mean, only through like non-telepathic empathy, I guess.
Yeah.
Sort of like, does this person look scared or whatever? Really, that's about the,
Yeah, I imagine that they're going to be scared if they're praying for deliverance, no matter what.
Yeah, you could probably figure that out just from the context, but even if it was a clear picture, you wouldn't be able to get you wouldn't be able to feel their feelings through the screen. It would have to be. You'd have to be closer to, sort of in the room with them to kind of get a read.
Yeah.
Perhaps we should make a move for the temple and join the rest of the townsfolk. We may have an opportunity to sneak into the area that we need to get to with the amount of commotion that's happening. And alternatively, we could gather information and at least scope out the place with a good excuse for being there.
This is what I'm thinking. But we need to proceed with as much caution as possible and not draw attention to ourselves.
Ronnie pulls his hood in kind of closer and makes sure that the whatever bandages and what have you that they've strewn about themselves, he's pulled his a little bit tighter, and he's not quite gone for ninja look, but he's getting close to it at this point.
Just the eyes visible kind of thing.
Yeah.
Ronnie, Vari, can you direct us to the best way to get in?
Yes, It would maybe be best if we went in through the side entranceway.
The whole time you've been kind of watching the temple building, it seems like everyone who you've seen still heading towards it has been making their way up a wide main stairway on the front of the building to a large opening, which you would guess to be the main entranceway into the temple itself, set about level with the second story of all the surrounding buildings. Your guides, however, gesture further along the structure to where you can see set into the street side wall a sort of nondescript set of steps leading up to a discreet small side door away from the main entranceway and the sort of hustle and bustle of everybody else.
Lead on, friends.
Alright, so just from my knowledge, how are you travelling as a group as you duck out of cover for the first time? Rane and Vare obviously leading the way.
Certainly staying hunched. Johnny's doing his best attempt to hunch over, and I guess he's quite a short guy anyway, so he's perhaps having to do the least of that.
Murphy's guiding them hurriedly, well, not hurriedly, but as quickly as they're moving through a concerned for their safety kind of thing.
Kind of in a sort of
part.
Keep the pace up sort of way.
Yeah, making sure that we're all together and we're all accounted for, like a family kind of unit.
Okay, so Rane and Vare lead you quickly out of the alleyway and across the road, and as a group you make your way along the side of the huge temple building to the set of steps that you spotted. Making your way up them, you're faced with a small doorway set into the stonework, clearly designed to be functional rather than something made to impress, like the huge ornate main entranceway. You guess that maybe this is for the use of the priests and other temple staff in their sort of more day-to-day comings and goings, and not for any kind of ceremonial purposes. Vare tries the handle, but the door doesn't budge.
It seems to be locked. What do we do now?
Is it a mechanical lock or is it a technological lock?
From what it looks from here, it looks to be mechanical of some sort.
Is this door normally unlocked then? Would there be a good reason for this to be locked?
Not usually, no. We passed this way many times while preparing for our mission. Perhaps it has been locked in response to whatever is happening now.
Murphy's going to look around them and just gesture them for, keep me covered. I'm going to use my phaser. And I'm going to put my phaser in the lowest setting just to try and zap it just to unlock the mechanism.
Okay. Can I get a control security check from you then? Just difficulty 1. Oh, that's very close to a complication there, but you got a 9, so that's your one success. So yeah, I guess the rest of you kind of crowd round, and behind you there's, the sounds are going to carry a little bit, but you're able to block Murphy from view as she fires into the locking mechanism. There's a shower of sparks and you don't know whether it's done it or not.
Can I try the door then?
Sure. Try and sort of handle it. It's still stiff and that, but as you you give it a good yank, and it's like you've kind of melted the locking mechanism, and it sort of just eventually kind of just comes free. There's a little bit of sort of slightly soft metal, which you guess might have been the lock, just kind of drops onto the ground. So lower setting, still good enough to sort of melt your way through a lock.
Yeah. But now we have an entrance.
Yeah. The room directly inside seems to be dark, but Vare and Rane just kind of give another look around and lead you inside. Your eyes kind of adjust to the gloom in here. It's not like pitch black, it's just there's no lights on or anything like that. And it does appear to be a kind of sort of storage room of some sort. Almost like a vestry, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. So there's some robes up on hooks and things and that and everything, but as soon as you step inside you can hear from behind another internal door at the end of the room what sounds like voices, sort of a low kind of like chanting, and sounds like sort of ongoing prayer noises, if that's a thing. But yes, and it sounds like quite a lot of people, but no signs that anybody noticed you shooting your way through the door.
Praying too loudly.
Well, that's fortunate.
Is there any indication of any other ins and outs from the room? Any trapdoors, potentially, ladders to go upstairs, anything like that?
Not from this room. There seems to be like a one-story room as far as you can tell. There's, like I say, there's a one door which seems to, from the angle of it, it's going deeper into the center of the temple, and there's the door you came in through.
Turning to Rene and Vare, how well do you know this temple? Will you be able to guide us through to the area that we need to get to?
We should be able to, yes. We were taken to the Revelation Vault to observe the sealing of the document before it was taken to our launch site.
Perhaps you should take the lead.
Of course, yes.
Rane puts a hand on the door leading further into the temple.
Are you ready?
Murphy's going to turn to the doctor and Connor. We should probably check in with the captain.
Johnny's totally down with that. Like, we're following protocol at last.
This is what you're here for, yeah.
Yep.
Murphy to Tenzing.
Colin's here. How are you getting on, Murphy?
Captain, the situation down here is a little more complicated than we might have thought. The beam site is empty. People are afraid, and they've all gathered to the central temple. We're about to try and make our way to the excavation site, but I just wanted to inform you, sir, that things are a little bit more complicated than first thought.
Understood. We'll do a little digging from up here, see if we can intercept any transmissions or anything which might explain what's happening where you are. We'll be in touch as soon as we have any information for you.
Thank you, sir. Murphy out.
Rane is looking at you expectantly.
I nod to her. Right, we're ready now.
They tentatively open the door a crack, just enough to kind of look out and check that no one is watching before beckoning the rest of you forward to move out of this room. As they do, the change in volume of the chanting that you've been hearing sort of tells you that this door opens directly into the main hall of the temple. You immediately get a bit of a whiff of kind of a sweet incense smell as well, sort of wafting in through the gap. There's now no walls between your little group and the voices of hundreds of Draterans who seem to be gathered within the temple itself, praying for salvation, it seems. I would say, Ireela, without even having to roll, you definitely, the amount of fear coming off these people is intense.
Well, this certainly feels much more like a siege type of emotion.
Are you alright, Doctor?
I'll be fine. It's just been some time. But I suspect that Ireela is definitely showing some of the mental strain of, like, this level of negative emotion.
Yeah. I mean, even everybody else, like, it's quite clear, even just visually, like, this is not, this is like a sort of service at the end of the world kind of vibe you're getting from them, sort of thing. And really, you can actually feel the feelings, and everybody is very, there's a lot of fear, as I said.
Is this place packed out, like, beyond the pews, let's say?
Yes.
Like, okay.
There is room to move, and you're not just like, you haven't just popped out in the middle of the room. You're kind of... let me describe the interior then. So the door opens and you can see into... It's a fairly wide chamber. It's very tall. At least it's all open. It's at least several stories tall on the inside. Rows of pillars line the chamber, and you're about halfway down one side of the chamber. Thankfully, the door you opened is kind of almost opened behind one of these pillars. Not, there's room. There's almost like a corridor's width between the door and the nearest pillar, but it has blocked you from being in view of most of the people here. There's a kind of central dais where a robed priest is leading the congregation in their prayers, but it's in the center of the chamber. This isn't like sort of a to use an example, like a there's not like a pulpit at the front and everybody's kind of looking. It's kind of like a sort of in the round kind of design, so everybody is sort of around this central point or looking inwards. But yeah, you think you could probably make your way around the outside without having to push past people or anything like that.
Take it slowly and meticulously walk towards where we're going.
How are Rane and Vare? reacting to this?
Again, it's tough to tell because you're wearing these sort of disguises almost, but they do seem a little caught up in the worry. And Ireela, I'd say as well, you begin to sort of get the feeling that it's sinking in for them, just like, oh wow, this is not a good situation if everybody's like this. It's a deeply religious society. These people have spent their whole lives going to the temple and that and everything, and you get the feeling that they've never seen anything like this.
Yeah.
They're staying professional. They're not like, oh god, no. They're not running up. They're not panicking. Mm-hmm. But it's clearly affecting them.
Okay, let's get moving. The worst thing is that fear can make you paralysed.
Well, he gives a nod, and much as he's prepared, that was reassuring. So yeah, lead the way.
So yes, they nod, and again, subtly making your way around the outside of this chamber, they're leading the way towards the corner with you can sort of see with a view towards getting towards the back wall. As I said, the congregation is kind of gathered all around, so you've got people's backs to you basically as you're going around the whole of this perimeter. But I mean kind of back wall in regards to where the main doors to the temple were. It takes about a minute or so for you to make your way around the perimeter of the room, keeping a low profile as you do, so, not wanting to bring any unwanted attention. Rana and Vare sort of keeping the pillars between you and the gathered crowd as much as possible. They wave you to a halt, however, as you turn to move along the back wall of the temple.
There is a priest guarding the entrance to the vault. There is no way past him without speaking to him.
As you look, you can see a robed priest standing in front of a doorway set about halfway along the wall, his head bowed slightly, hands clasped in front of him.
Do either of you think that there would be a good reason for anybody to go down into the area that guy is guarding right now? Would either of you be confident talking to him?
Yes, we have spoken to this priest many times before. We know all of the priests in this temple.
Oh, on that basis then, are you welcome here still? Is it known that you were taking your flight into space?
Yes, the priests were heavily involved in planning our flight, you see.
I would say as well, just as an aside, this isn't there's no separation of church and state here. The priesthood very much are the ones in most of the leadership positions in this society. So, yeah, their space mission would have been overseen by the priesthood. If not, if not running it day to day, they would, ultimately the ones they were reporting to.
Okay. Jonny kind of, on that note, loosens up a little bit and kind of straightens up and says, oh, well, okay, well, let's go and have a chat with them then. Surely they'll just let us down into the area we need to look at.
Cautiously.
If he questions, I'd suggest emphasising that we need to do something quickly, and looking round and, trying to do it without drawing too much attention. That might persuade him to not argue too much.
You think we'll meet with any resistance? I mean, if you know these guys, and I suppose was what you did, was it considered a sacred mission of some sort?
If they're believed to be dead, it's unlikely that there won't be some surprise.
Yeah, I mean, the last that anyone here on the ground would have heard from Rane and Vare would have been the frantic, help, we found the Laldron, we shouldn't have come here message that they broadcast when the first confronted with the Tenzing, but there's been no communication since then whatsoever.
So they would probably believe that they were dead and that the Laldron were coming.
I think I said at one point as well that they almost thought it was going to be a one-way trip.
Yeah, they didn't expect to return home from this.
Yeah, definitely not 2 days later either, or however, a couple of days later, wherever it's been.
So there's two most likely ways that the priest will react. It'll either be
joy.
This is wonderful, you've made it back. Have the Laldron come to save us? Or it'll be,
what the fuck are you doing back here?
Yeah.
fear.
Pretty much, yeah. It's going to be one of those two. And I think the best way to get round either of them is to emphasise that, this is clearly a dangerous situation and we need to get on with what we're meant to be doing.
Yeah, time is of the essence.
Yeah.
You can't stop to explain. You just have to trust that we're here to do the right thing. Are you okay to talk to them, Ronnie?
Yes, we must do what we must do. Follow close behind.
Ronnie leads the way towards the doorway. As you approach, the priest doesn't immediately clock your group. You can see as you get closer that they're also chanting along with the rest of the congregation. Not like fully under their breath, but just kind of quietly to themselves. They're standing at their post, but they still kind of, it seems, feel the need to be involved with the prayers that are happening. It's not until you're basically level with them that they really kind of notice your presence. Rane takes a step forward, pulling down the face covering that they've been wearing, like yourselves.
Sarah, we must speak with you.
You see the priest's eyes go wide. Ireela, you can feel an immediate spike of confusion and surprise from him. They don't shout out or anything, but they do lean in and speak up.
Rane, we thought not to see you again.
Rane presses them.
We should speak in private. In the vault, away from the eyes of many. This cannot wait, Sarah.
You see the conflict on the priest's face, and they look briefly towards the centre of the temple, where the more senior priests, it seems, are the ones leading the prayers, before nodding and quietly opening the door to the vault. They take a long look at the three of you, your identity still hidden by your robes and head coverings, and then they gesture to the group inside. They don't question you just yet, but you get the feeling they're a little suspicious of the three of you. Rane and Vare lead the way down a winding spiral staircase, lit only by occasional dim lighting set into small little alcoves in the wall. Behind you, the priest closes the door and begins to follow you. The stairs go down a fair distance. It's tough to really gauge quite how far, with no point of reference, but you would guess that you're now at least a story or two below street level as you reach the bottom of the stairs and step into a wide, low-ceiling chamber. It's at least as large as the main hall of the temple above you and stretches off into darkness, sporadically lit by soft torch-like electric lamps. The floor is bare volcanic rock, and looking around at the walls, in many places the constructed walls do not extend all the way down to floor level before transitioning into this natural deposit. This is the original Selden dig site, where the Revelation document was found, with the new temple literally constructed over the top of it. Looking around, you can see there's no one else down here with you, and as the priest reaches the bottom of the stairs behind you, Rane and Vare remove their head coverings completely.
How is this possible? We had not heard from you since you spoke of seeing the Laldron. You were thought lost. What happened to you?
Where to begin? The Revelation spoke truth. Once the speaking stone was active, we seemed to move at a great speed. It brought us to a huge vessel bearing the sacred symbols. It was then that we made our transmission. The people of this vessel, they say they are not the Laldron. They come from elsewhere.
They had many questions. Our vessel and speaking stone were familiar to them.
Rane gestures towards the three of you.
They wished to be shown where the revelation was found.
Priest sort of eyes, he doesn't really kind of clock what had just been said, that the three of you were potentially, the implication there was well, you guys say you're not the Laldron, but
these might be your people's gods.
Yeah,
so...
yeah. You see his brain kind of working through it, and then he just is kind of looking at the three of you, as if for the first time taking in that even though you're hunched down and everything, you guys are probably a good 6-7 inches tall. Even though we took the three shorter of the four of you on this away mission, the three of you,
Aren't you three a little tall for Draterans?
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, he's sort of all of a sudden, even though you're robed and everything, and your disguise is held up pretty well to this point. As soon as it was kind of gestured that you guys aren't from round here, he is sort of a little bit wide-eyed.
Murphy's like inwardly sighing, going, for God's sake. Didn't have to tell him that. Okay.
Can I really sense something from the priest now? Other than just, fear and confusion.
There was an immediate sort of reaction of, like I said, confusion, and like there's a bit of curiosity, but also like a sort of not doubt, but like this was quite this is a crazy thing to have just been told, basically.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, that's fair.
Hey, our mission that we thought was,
our suicide mission is suddenly done something very weird.
Well, even not. I mean, yeah, they thought it was a one-way trip, but like they were following the instructions in their sacred document, so it wasn't like out of the realm of possibility for this. Like they thought this was a possibility. This was like they'd finally gotten their technology to the point where they could follow the instructions in their sacred document, so they believed something would happen. But you guys showing up a couple of days later dressed like them is a bit odd. Like, they hadn't thought it was a possibility. So I think
it's a little sudden.
Yeah, he's dealing with a lot of information at once here, and he's not quite sure how. He's not sure he believes it himself, I would say. There's also some complex emotions worked in from, like, he was already in a state of fear before this, and yeah, all of a sudden 2 people who he didn't think were coming back have turned up with 3 people who he doesn't know, and the 2 people are claiming that you are possibly the representatives of their gods. It's a complex situation for him, let's just say.
Having sensed all of these somewhat conflicting emotions, Ireela turns her head and goes, Murphy, Connacht, have a look around, see if you can find anything else familiar.
On it.
Yeah, on that note, Jonny's going to start looking around the room.
I understand that this is unexpected, shall we say. But there is clearly a crisis going on for your group. If there is some way that we can help, we will. But first, we need more information.
Are you staying hooded and face covered at this point, or are you...
No, she's going to take down the hood and uncover her face, so that the priest can have a chance to see that there's some sincerity on her face. Like, this isn't some, like, scary, terrifying cloaked avenging angel of some kind.
Well, as soon as you kind of reveal that you're not Drateran, his eyes are like super wide at this point. Just the revelation of, like, you're quite clearly not a Drateran has thrown a whole nother, like, oh, well, this isn't, maybe this isn't quite so far-fetched sort of feeling on him, but it is, you're the first non-Drateran he's ever seen.
I realise well aware that she's breaking the Prime Directive by showing her face, but it's probably necessary.
Yeah, I think at this point this is already a complicated Prime Directive situation, and yeah,
isn't going to make it that much worse.
No. You sort of almost kind of you get the feeling, you're feeling the conflict inside him, and you can kind of remember, although actually I don't know if you were in the room at the time, how when they first got off of their ship and saw you, Rane and Vari were like bowing and such, before what they thought was the Loldran. You can feel that need within him to do that, but kind of tempered a bit by the whole situation and sort of Vari's words of, like, they say they're not the Loldran, but your ship has basically letters in English written on it. So it's sort of like, you got the feeling like if it had been like, if they'd have said, like, oh, we definitely found the Loldran, here's one of them, and you'd been like, hello, it's me, he would have been on his knees, like, bowing and everything. But it's sort of, it's an odd situation. But you definitely feel that impulse kind of rising within him, that he's sort of pushes back down a little bit, and he looks to Rane and Vari. And
the transmission that the Laldron had been contacted by us was not only heard by our listening stations.
Ah. And the rest of the planet authorities have taken exception to this.
We have been excommunicated, all of us.
He looks to Rane and Vari, and you get a feeling of resigned sorrow from him.
The Lightbringers are on their way.
He seemed quite well put together up to this point, but as he says this last, you see a tear in his eye, and you get an immediate feeling of shock from Rane and Vari. Vari recovers first.
We do not have long. The Lightbringers, they will destroy this town and everyone in it.
Understood. Can you show us exactly where the text came from?
The priest nods and gestures further into the vault.
Of course, this way.
So as she starts to follow after the priest, Ireela taps her badge. Commander Ireela to Lieutenant Commander Ray.
Ray here.
Things are bad. The planetary authorities are sending something called Lightbringers, and it appears that they intend to annihilate this settlement and everybody in it.
Okay, that's definitely a development I wasn't expecting to hear. Shall I scan for possible threats in the area, Commander?
Yes, please. And we shall need to... It appears that the entire population, or close to it, are concentrated at the same location as we are. We're currently investigating where the ship schematics were originally found. I will get Ensign Connacht to do a scan and send the data back to you.
Commander, do you feel the need for immediate extraction anytime soon? I've still got a lock on your signals.
It's likely that we and potentially the town folk will need to be out within the hour.
If we're talking about mass evacuation, we might need to utilise the transporters in the shuttle bays.
Understood. I'll be back in touch when I have more information. Can you relay this to the captain, please?
Aye, Commander. If I detect any threats in the vicinity of your location, I'll let you know. Ray out.
Okay, that's a good transition point to the focus being on Ray then. So, how do you want to do this then? So, what's your order of operations here? You've gotten a few things to do there.
Okay, so first thing Ray's going to do is initiate a scan for anything within a 50 kilometre radius of the away team that will register as technology, weapons, readings of any kind, just to see if there's anything out of the ordinary that's cropped up.
Okay.
That's the first thing I'll do.
This is a difficulty 2 reason science check, again using the ship's sensors, so not the most tricky for you, so you're aiming for 17 under with yourself and somebody on 2d20, and if somebody else could do 1d20 for the ship, aiming for 16 or less.
2 17s.
Okay. I would take the 6 from Amy's roll there then for the ship. So you just luckily you get one more success than you needed there. You were lucky that your science skill is so high yourself. Otherwise that would have been 2 failures on a difficulty 2. But no, okay. These are quite broad parameters for a scan, especially as the Deuterians aren't that primitive in terms of technology. The ship doesn't detect anything, though, within a 50-kilometre radius. But as the scan expands beyond that, the computer once again flags, as it did prior to the beam down, anomalous patterns in the air traffic above the continent. There's almost none in the vicinity of Selden, which is odd. But then suddenly the scan focuses on a single group of air vehicles. A fast-moving, tightly packed formation on a direct course for Selden. A timer appears on your display showing an estimated time of arrival of 17 minutes. The scan probes deeper, and your display turns red.
Warning. Atomic weapons detected.
Oh dear. So at that point, Ray will then contact the bridge. Transporter room 2 to bridge.
Go ahead, Commander.
Captain, we have a problem. I just did a sensor sweep looking for weapons-grade materials within a 50-kilometre radius of the away team's location, and I've picked up some readings coming in pretty hot.
What do you mean by hot, Commander?
I mean that they are showing nuclear signatures, Captain. Commander Ireela communicated something about Lightbringers coming to destroy the town. And by the looks of it, the craft that are coming in, they're making, pardon the expression, a beeline for the settlement.
I want our team out of there as soon as possible.
I've kept the lock on ever since they went down, sir.
Good, good.
The away team are prepared for emergency beam out, but Commander Ireela doesn't want to leave just yet. I'm waiting for a signal.
We'll have to trust she knows what she's doing. But if those aircraft get within 2 minutes of their target, you're beaming them out. Whether you've heard from them or not. Do you understand me?
Understood, sir.
Did she say whether they'd reached their objective or not?
Yes and no, sir. On the last communication, they'd reached the location where document was found. They're still surveying the area inside. They have made contact. It should be noted, sir. I think our Jaterian guests sort of gave the game away.
So much for stealth infiltration.
Just a little bit, sir. Yes.
Okay, keep a close eye on the situation, Commander. Commander Tulin and I will contact Admiral Flanders and relay everything to him. You know the Prime Directive, though, Commander. Strictly speaking, we can't interfere in this. It's an internal affair of our pre-warp society.
Aye, sir. But if they do say we can act quickly, we're approaching only 15 minutes before we have to make that call.
Time's of the essence, then. I'll leave you to it. Collins out.
Well, next thing we're going to do is obviously contact the away team. And let them know what's going on. Tenzing to away team.
Here.
Commander, I have an update for you. Long-range scans detected weapon signatures of the nuclear variety. We're about 15 minutes away from the away team's location. I think these are the Lightbringers that our friends were talking about.
I see.
Shall I beam you back?
We're just about to get to the site of the schematics. It will be no more than a few minutes.
Understood. I'll keep a lock on you. But please understand, Commander, if it gets down to the last minute, I'm beaming you out of there whether you found something or not. Captain's orders.
Understood. Ireela out.
Okay, that's a good transition point, I think, back to the away team then. So you are led, the three of you, towards the rear of the Undercroft here. As you approach, there's a kind of small sort of enclosed area. They haven't built walls around it, but there is kind of screens sort of partitioning the area off from the rest of the Undercroft. And as you're escorted past these screens, you can see that this little sort of partitioned off area has been excavated a little deeper than the rest of the room. In a sunken trench cut into the volcanic rock of the floor, you can actually see what looks like a lower floor level that's been buried underneath this rock layer, with the remains of some ancient tiling just about visible. In the centre of this trench is a slightly out of place looking, but very sturdy looking, rectangular box, affixed to the lower floor itself. Visually, it seems to be constructed of some kind of metal, although you can't really tell what that is from here. And stylistically, it's unlike pretty much everything that you've seen of the Jaterians so far. It's surprisingly unadorned. Whether this is down to any decorations wearing off with age or due to exposure to volcanic debris and such, you can't tell. Regardless of this, it definitely sort of seems to be manufactured to a much higher precision than a lot of what you've seen, if that makes sense. Size-wise, it's just about perfectly proportioned for the lead container which held the Revelation document, currently up on the Tenzing, to be stored within it.
Well, much as it's not Johnny's forte, he's going to take a scan of this, having heard what was talked about earlier, that he was going to be tasked with this. And yeah, scans the I don't know. It's not a vault, but the tomb, let's say, that this thing was kept in.
Reliquary?
Yeah, that's probably a bit. Yeah, I was gonna say.
So yeah, he takes a scan with the intent of. Is it possible to take a scan that would capture what it would look like without kind of a build-up of decay and kind of dirt and what have you that's accumulated over time?
That would be something to look at post, once you've got access more to the systems on the Tenzing. You can scan now to process later.
Okay. Well, he's certainly going to take a scan then of the general surrounding area. Is there anything that jumps out immediately in terms of like where this thing is being kept? Are there any Starfleet insignia? Is there anything that immediately is obvious like that?
Not that you can see straight away. Again, like this thing, like I say, it's a little bit more precision cut and everything, but it doesn't appear to have any kind of markings on it, really, as far as you can see. Okay, so if you're doing a scan, can I get a reason science check from you? Difficulty 2. Say, looking for 12 or under, that's 1 success, 1 failure. Okay.
Success. Is there anything I can do?
You can spend momentum, is what you can do.
And these clues.
Yep, let's do it then. What can I do here? Add another dice roll?
You can spend, if you spend 1 point of momentum to get an extra d20.
Mm-hmm.
If you want a second extra d20, you can you can spend another 2 points. If you want a third, you can spend another 3 points.
Okay. What's the feeling here? How far do I want to go in terms of spending momentum? Because we got 7, so...
I mean, you got loads. I mean, you might as well spend it if you got it, because it goes away after a little time.
So I could spend 3 to get 2 extra dice.
Mm-hmm. I'd say spend 3.
Yeah.
I mean, it's there to be spent. There's no point hoarding it.
That's 2 extra.
There's another 2 extra failures there.
Damn. Johnny's not got much capacity in this respect, and is certainly not getting any kind of insight here.
No. If you want to buy a third dice, that takes another 3 points.
What's the feeling?
Well, that would only leave us with an option of 1 more die for extraction.
Later, yeah.
That's very costly to go for 1 more.
It's 3 for another die is not great.
Yeah. Let's skip it then, if everybody's game for that.
Yeah.
And Johnny will take
the hit. Very upset.
it feels like it's within character for Johnny to not really glean anything from his scan, apart from just saving the information.
Yeah, you do a scan with your tricorder and that, and you haven't really got the experience to interpret what's coming up on the screen for you. It's saving the data, but you can't really make heads or tails of it yourself right now.
So, like, there's information flying past, and Johnny's getting about 50% of it, and understanding that, okay, right, yeah, this is what I wanted to get from the scan, but that's all he can tell is that, yes, this is the right information. He doesn't take anything from it.
You're pretty confident that you're taking in data. You just don't really have the training to kind of interpret really what you're looking at, is how I would say it. You're successfully using a tricorder. You're not successfully interpreting what the tricorder is saying to you. Cool. It is saving the data, though.
Okay.
I have remembered that Murphy took her holo recorder with her.
Mm-hmm.
She is going to take a holo recording of the chamber and the reliquary.
Sure.
No, she's just kind of filming about.
Yeah, you're just basically filming. You're just walking around. Johnny's one was like, I'm taking a scan, I want to see what I find out. Yours is just, I'm going to point this at everything. Yeah.
Click.
Yeah.
Click.
Sure. Yeah, you're able to do that. I don't think I need you to roll for that, because this is just, you're taking some recordings, really. You're not. Yeah. You're not looking to interpret anything here. Yeah. I think between the two of you, you're doing quite a good job of collecting some stuff to look at another time.
Yeah, we've got a lot of evidence of the situation, and hopefully this'll... I don't know, if everything goes wrong here, as it might, in terms of things being destroyed, then maybe we've got evidence of stuff that will lead to the right thing. I don't know, we'll see.
As you're taking scans, Rane and Vari are sort of talking, again, in the way that you've gotten used to with the Draterans are the sort of quite hushed voices, quite close together. They seem to be... I mean, they're not, like, whispering so you can't hear. They just seem to be sort of giving a bit of an account to what's clearly the sort of... If not, like, superior... Not, like, superior officer, but, you know, somebody they were in a position of authority, giving their account of, like, what happened as quickly as they can, in as broader terms as possible, really. They don't appear to be, like, misrepresenting it, but it's quite clear that they're still harbouring some doubts as to whether themselves as to whether you guys are Loldran adjacent or anything, even despite Jonny showing them of the history of the Federation and everything. You know, they've adjusted well given the circumstances of the whole thing, but this is still very crazy for them as well. You're kind of getting that, you know, feeling. It is easy to forget, you know, you've been with them a couple of days and everything, but this is all still very new for them as well. But they're kind of relaying their side of the story sort of thing and making inquiries as to what happened after they lost contact, if that makes sense.
It does. I'm really not sure that there's much productive that Ireela could be doing right now, other than just making sure that once the scans are done, the data's sent back to the Tenzing immediately. That's kind of it.
As they're kind of collecting information and saving their data and what have you, Jonny's going to turn to everybody else and say, given everything that's happening, is there anything we can do for these people? And he kind of looks towards the two Draterans and has a look of worry about him, for sure.
That's up to Starfleet, Ensign.
Surely there has to be a way that we can convince your leaders to call off these Lightbringers.
If any compromise is made by Starfleet, I suspect it will be to relocate this section of the population rather than break the Prime Directive for a whole planet.
But we don't have to be the ones to do it. Rani?
We still took them into the ship. The fact that somebody was here before us with information on warp technology could help bend the rules enough, but strictly speaking, the ship should beam us out and leave them to die. I just hope it doesn't come to that.
How are Rane and Vare reacting to this? Because we're being pretty blunt.
I mean, they're still talking to the priest.
They are.
I suppose.
But I think you've kind of gotten this feeling that, like, they knew the implications when the priest told them we've been excommunicated, the Lightbringers are coming. That was sort of, they know what's coming, you know.
Yeah. They know that their group are going to be exterminated.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's just what happens to heretics.
So, Ray, at your station, you receive a notification of incoming data feeds from the ground as the Tenzing starts receiving the scan data from Jonny's tricorder and Murphy's holorecorder. You're not getting the raw data itself on your screen. This is more of just a sort of alert that the Tenzing's getting the data for later review.
Yep.
On another panel, though, your eyes can't help but be drawn to the countdown timer showing the arrival of the attack squadron at Selden as it dips below the 10-minute mark. Still no word from the captain.
I'm thinking I should update the away team. Just a short message.
Sure.
Tenzing to away team. ETA 10 minutes.
Understood.
Ireela, you can't help but become hyper-aware following Ray's message of the quick passage of time, now that the danger is so imminent. It's already a pretty tense situation, but as Murphy and Connaught continue their scans in silence for the next minute or so, you can't help but feel a little more apprehensive. The clock is ticking, and you still haven't heard anything from Starfleet. Then your comm badge pips.
Collins to Ireela.
You really here?
Doctor, sorry for keeping you waiting. I've been in emergency conference with the Admiral. Do you have the data we need?
I believe we have as much data as we can gather in the time allowed.
All right. Well, here's the situation.
The view of the Admiral is that this whole affair has been one big Prime Directive foul-up from the beginning. Not initially our fault, of course, but we've been left tidying up the mess. We have authorization to extract anyone who may be aware of us and of your identities, including our two guests, but other than that, I'm afraid we can't intervene on a larger scale. Starfleet is unwilling to allow any further exposure, and no matter how it began, is declaring this an internal matter for the Jeterans at this point. We can't do anything else without further breaking the Prime Directive. As horrific as this situation is, even saving those we can is a substantial compromise on one of Starfleet's founding principles. How many individuals would you say that is?
Ireela looks round at Murphy and Hannah, silently debating whether to just go upstairs and talk to everybody.
Murphy's like biting at the bit to like speak her mind, but she's like clenched her fists tight because she's like, this is wrong. If we have to just leave this whole city, she's not enjoying this at all.
Yeah, Jonny is solemn and has like, he's kind of blanched and looks kind of grey and is very clearly very worried by this situation.
Captain, I must protest this decision, sir.
Believe me, Commander, I'm with you on this, and I've been arguing the point with Starfleet Command, but they are standing firm on this one. The rules are there for a reason. Following them sometimes means we can't save people.
Sir, there has to be another way.
Not without breaking the Prime Directive any further.
Could we beam the entire population to another location on the planet, sir? We could leave Rani and Vari behind, and they could profess that the Laldrin spared them. Their return would be undisputed.
If there's somewhere where they wouldn't be caught, it would allow this particular group to continue living and wouldn't substantially change their societal belief system. They already believed that they had different information from their god. I cannot agree with a decision that leaves behind hundreds of people to die.
And sir, we're the ones at fault. It's our technology that has landed them in this position in the first place. We are responsible for this.
That's an interesting proposition. The rest of the planet would have to believe that perish completely, though. We'd have to put them somewhere they'd never be noticed.
I'm gonna, like, wave over the two Cheerins and be like, guys, come over here.
Yes, Commander.
Is there a place unknown to the priesthood that you could go? A land that isn't inhabited or heavily inhabited by others?
Perhaps, but how would we get out in time? There are so many of us.
That would be our problem. Our orders are that we cannot bring any of your people with us. We either find somewhere else for you on this planet, or they all die.
And we want to help.
We can leave behind some supplies until you get a chance to establish yourselves. But our time limit is rapidly diminishing.
They confer briefly for a second before turning back to you.
The southern continent is sparsely populated. There are many uninhabited islands. We could perhaps stay hidden there.
Lieutenant Commander Ray.
Ray here.
Scan the southern continent for islands of a sufficient size to support a population of several hundred.
Scanning now.
You have the planet is well mapped. You have a good map of the planet. So just the mention of the southern continent, you're able to bring that up, and there are a lot of islands there.
I'm going to roll for dramatic effect.
Sure.
Odd.
19 and a 4.
Okay, well that's one success and very nearly a complication. So that almost would have gone terribly for you.
Please don't do that.
You're able to find a small little out of the way island group. Just based on the sort of the traffic scan and things at the moment, that based on the data you have to hand, you think this is going to be pretty out of the way. There are 6 minutes before the bombers arrive.
I've got something, Commander. There's a small group of Southern Islands. 6 minutes ETA until the Lightbringers arrive. It's now or never, Commander.
With your permission, Captain?
Yeah, screw it. Let's do this. They can reprimand me whenever we get back to Earth. Commander Ray, coordinate with all the transporter chiefs. Let's move some people.
Murphy would like to suggest something. That we should send one of Rani. Oh God.
Rani and Barry.
Yeah.
Rani and Barry. I've got it written down. I'm looking bloody at it, and I still can't bloody say it. The two of them. That one of them go with the first batch, so that they're not so terrified. They have someone familiar to look at. She's gonna look at the two of them and be like, one of you should be there for when they arrive, just to reassure them so they don't panic. And then when this is over, you can settle down and live your lives.
They look to each other and then to the priest, and we will join the congregation upstairs then. Thank you for everything you have done.
Murphy's just gonna nod and be like, live well.
Yeah, sort of nod back to each of you and not run, but they're pretty much just like, okay, let's get upstairs. And they leave the three of you down in the chamber.
Well, I guess we wait.
So, Ray, working together with the teams running all of the ship's transporter rooms, as well as operating the cargo transporters, you're able to coordinate this evacuation. Start to finish, it should take between 30 seconds to a minute to move all of the Deuterians from the Selden temple to an uninhabited island in the southern hemisphere. Just to kind of symbolise this coordination effort and the sort of technical skill involved in such a rapid mass transport event, can I get a control engineering check from you? Just difficulty 1, I think, as you've got all the tools at your disposal and all the sort of experienced transporter chiefs and engineers working together. I will also need someone else to roll for the tensing systems. Oh, well, there you go. 8 and a 6 from you. That is 2 successes. You were aiming for under 15. If I can get somebody else from do the ship as sensors engineering. Oh, that's also a 2. Excellent. So, yeah. So, from down in the vault then, the sounds of the prayers and chanting from above had begun to kind of drift back down to you once more, following the departure of your 3 Deuterian companions. It's possible they left the door at the top of the stairs open, as these sounds hadn't really filtered down here previously. All of a sudden, the sounds from above abruptly stop, replaced at first with a few shouts and screams of surprise, and then a growing background hum of transporter beam cycles, as one by one the whole congregation above are plucked from the temple by the Tenzing, to be taken wherever they must now make their homes in secret. Shortly, the sounds of transporters subside, and the 3 of you are left in silence, now the only living people within the temple. Ray, you and your team complete the operation. As far as you can tell, everybody from the temple, other than the 3 awaiting members, safely made the transport to this island chain.
Commander Ray to Captain.
Go ahead.
Transport operations complete. All the Deuterians have been moved to the new site. All we're missing is our awaiting.
Okay, let's get them back on board. Beam them up.
Aye, sir. Commander Ray to Commander Ireela.
Here.
Stand by for transport. We're beaming you back home.
Perfect.
Energizing.
Okay, the 3 of you find yourselves again on the transporter pad. a relieved-looking transporter chief there next to Ray. I don't know if you're looking relieved or whether you're just like keeping your cool. It's up to you. But you are back aboard the Tenzing just in time to avoid getting a nuclear explosion in the face. So, good job. I guess. That makes me sound good job, I guess. Like
Murphy's just gonna breathe a huge sigh of relief. Like, oh my god, thank God, those people aren't dead.
Yeah.
Oh, thank God.
So this has been a fairly messy situation, but I think you've, as a group, found a neat way through it with minimal loss of life. How that's going to pan out for the Jatirans in the future, who knows? What repercussions there might be for, well, probably maybe just for Captain Collins for this, for sort of bending the orders would probably be a way of saying it. But at the very least not leaving these people to their deaths. There might be some kind of repercussions, who knows? But either way, I think you guys took a way out that is going to at least let you sleep at night. So,
yeah, definitely.
Thanks to Murphy.
Yeah. Oh, flashbacks.
But yeah. And you have your scans of the chamber. And you still have the Dratiran document as well, which, what you want to do with that, I don't know. But I'll leave that to you. When you want to hang on. A lot of
frame it.
Still a lot of questions to be answered.
There's a lot of questions. That's what I mean. Yeah. This isn't wrapped up in a neat little package.
Yeah.
There's a lot of questions to be answered, but
if there wasn't the age anomaly with the schematics, then I'd probably advocate for it being returned to them. But as we don't yet know how it got to them, at that point in time,
you still have their ship as well.
We do. I don't know how much that's going to tell us.
We'll get Bonge on the case.
The only engineer on board. Bonge.
Oh no, but Murphy's not done. Not done.
Oh, you're not done?
No, I'm not done.
Oh.
I'm not done.
Oh no.
Bonge is new.
Gotta learn.
Gotta learn somewhere.
Okay. So, just to bring this story to a close then, I think we'll move on just a couple of hours. Debriefings are done. You've met with the captain and Commander Talin to sort of have a final conference on the whole Dratiran affair. Preliminary reports are in the process of being written up for later dispatch to Starfleet. I don't think we need to roleplay that. And your current shifts have all come to an end. As a group, you've all congregated, I think, in 10 Forward for a post-mission decompress. Is that's a way to put it? I think.
Yeah,
I think so.
That sounds about right.
It's been a tense day.
We've probably like chatted in the cord.
I need a drink after that.
Yeah.
Murphy is definitely that.
Gone along enough.
Are we still in orbit around the planet as we're going to get these drinks? Because if so, then Jonny is definitely going to suggest that we look out the window.
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely.
Okay. Well, so the ship has not left orbit yet. You are okay. You still haven't finished your journey to Deep Space 3 as well, but you are now with only
one day.
You are only a couple of days of travel away from there now. But so there is not the biggest of rushes now. This was a legitimate detour. Not that the other one wasn't legitimate, but like, hey, this was
action.
This was a call to action. This one. But you're able to take another look down at the planet, possibly for the last time. For you never know if you're going to be back here. But yeah, would it be safe to say kind of mixed feelings about this? As I said, this was not the tidiest of missions, was it?
Yeah, Jonny is conspicuously quiet in a way where like he's solemn and is shaken by the fact that like there was even a question about saving these people. Like he's like the dogmatic spirit that he's got is definitely kind of shaken by that.
Murphy's just kind of like quietly like like observing him and that. She's just being reminded of how she felt during the Cardassian border scuffles. Just like, I can sympathize, Ensign.
It's kind of Johnny's first real kind of encounter with like a I guess what would be a way of putting it, like a bit of a moral conundrum coming up against Starfleet protocol.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's not every day you run into like a first contact situation and a Prime Directive situation, so even though you've been in Starfleet for a while, this is kind of your first taste of the complexities of it, would possibly be a way of putting it.
There's kind of that atmosphere where Johnny's kind of clearly trying to engage with the conversation that might be happening around him, but is clearly a little bit detached where something's distracting him.
Ray is sort of sat with the group, sort of only half paying attention to what they're saying. He's got his drink in his right hand, but his left hand is up behind his neck and just sort of kind of roughly putting pressure on the base of his neck down to his shoulder. He's in a little bit of discomfort, but he's trying to hide it and just sort of passively sort of nodding and agreeing with what's being said. He's clearly not feeling particularly comfortable at this point.
Would it be safe to say your Ireela would be able to, you're feeling uncomfortable in a way that Ireela would be able to pick up as something other than just like uncomfortable at how all this went down, or
possibly. I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, can Ireela detect physical distress? Because essentially, what Ray's going through is kind of phantom pain, as it were.
Well, she is an empath.
And if you're pressing on a part of your body that, in a way that people usually do to relieve pain, she is a doctor.
I did not consider that.
Yeah. So there is a doctor. She is the ship's chief doctor as well.
She is the doctor.
So, yeah, potentially she can pick up on what Ray's feeling.
I'm not prompting anything with that. I just was wondering if that was a maybe.
Yeah. It can. Yeah, I mean, so what was that
sort of thing that Ireela's keeping track of with the 3 colleagues around her.
Yeah,
because that's been a couple of unusual away missions.
Yeah,
with the second being pretty close to harrowing near the end. Yeah. So she'll be keeping an eye on this one.
Yeah, Murphy's going to need a trip to the holodeck to beat up some Cardassians. Once she gets off, once she like has a moment to like process. Just to like relieve that tension because it was a close call.
So, as you know, I guess would it be safe to say you guys are kind of trying to keep the conversation a little light as well, to sort of just relieve. This is a tension reliever, not a commiserations. Or I mean, I don't know. Commiserations is more sort of.
It feels
like as you guys did really. You guys saved the day basically. So.
Yeah, I kind of feels that we're like not enjoying the moment. We're equally enjoying and not enjoying the moment in like contented silence, almost. And like we're all in our own thoughts, but we're all glad that the outcome was that it was.
Yeah,
even though
that it was such a dire outcome.
Yeah, we've all made it out.
We've been given pause for thought in terms of. Starfleet's policy was a little bit questionable to all of us there, it seemed. But otherwise, it did work out. So we'll just see what might come of this, ultimately.
I mean, considering it's possibly it's the Federation's fault that this happened, but again, the mystery is still there to solve, so only part of the mission is done, really.
Okay.
But it's also that it's a decision that that would have been potentially justifiable in wartime, but not in peace.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. During the Dominion War, possibly.
Yeah. The time that's the thing. Like you guys are your general mission, where you're being sent to the Bermuda cluster, is kind of a first attempt at Starfleet to let's get back to being explorers. We're done with the war, hopefully.
Yeah,
for
back
now.
to business as usual.
Yeah.
Being explorers, being champions of equality and peace and democracy and.
But part of what comes with that, though, is that the times that we might have been playing fast and loose with things in the name of surviving against the Dominion, has to be put away, and we have to go back to ends don't always justify the means. Here, we've got to. The rules are there for a reason, sort of thing, even if we don't always agree with them.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll fade out on this story then. The four of you together, but all in your own thoughts about the events of the last few days. Who knows what you'll be facing next? Alright, that's going to do it for today's episode. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time on Thursday, May 19th with the next chapter of Frontier, and we hope you'll join us for that. Remember to get any Q&A questions to us by midnight on the night of Sunday, May 22nd. And in the meantime, you can find links to all of our online presences at www.pretendingwithdice.com. For now, that's our show. I hope you all enjoyed it. We'll see you next time.